just some more thoughts on non-duality as we work our way through this Lent series of self-improvement, self-development and self-awareness. Non-duality, as I've said before, is key to the understanding of Ho'oponopono. And as we come to day 5, I think we're on day 5 now, we are summing up non-duality in the following ways. First, there are no finite minds. Infinite. Infinite means no beginning and end. Finite means it's limited to having a beginning and an end in the material world. That's not the mind. The body may seem that way. It may be that the body has a beginning and end, but the mind doesn't. Secondly, there is no my mind and your mind. Okay, these are not separate entities, my mind and your mind. That's just incredible to try and get your head around that one. But this is the key to an understanding of non-duality. There is only consciousness. Everything that seems to be material is an arising in consciousness due to the programming of the mind. And we'll talk a bit more about programming in a moment. We perceive certain objects as solid, and that's because of the vibrational speed at which they are arising, or the programming of the vibrational speed of whatever it is, that appears in consciousness. All of it is an arising in consciousness. And consciousness is indivisible. Through a non-dual lens, I recognise I am not in fact taking the blame for other people's problems and wrongdoings. When we talk about 100% responsibility, we only think that's problematic if we're still seeing in a dualistic way, me and you. Why should I take responsibility for your wrongdoings, your mess ups, your problems? But that distinction doesn't exist in non-duality. I recognise I am not in fact taking the blame for other people's problems and wrongdoings because there are no other people. It is from this vantage point of knowing that I am able to own it all. Once I own it, I can clean it. And this is when I've written a note in pencil at the bottom. This is the mind of Christ. Okay, so this non-dual and dual. We flip between these all the time, and one isn't right and one isn't wrong. They overlay each other, a little bit like using the dial on a radio station. Depending on which level of reality you're working at and how high the vibrational frequency you're on, the lower and slower, the more dense and separation appears. And it seems as though we are in separation. As we go higher, turn the dial up, heighten our conscious awareness, heighten the frequency of our consciousness, then the separation disappears. So sometimes I get people saying non-duality is all the letting go of all beliefs, just letting go of all beliefs. Yeah, the distinction between certain objects and subjects and objects and things, and even including beliefs, just disappears into pure light in non-duality. But at the same time, we recognize that we are here. We are showing up in a world, in this incarnational experience. We've all chosen to be here. So we're, in a way, operating on two different programs. It's like a little bit like at work. I have to use a Microsoft Windows at work, and I'm only used to using Apple at home. So it's second nature to me to just use the my iPad and my MacBook, and I just know how it works, and I can be really quick on it. When I have to start using a different program, it slows me down because everything feels very clumsy. I don't know the way to things. It seems like there's a lot of different processes you have to get to. It seems less intuitive somehow to me because it's not what I'm familiar with. It's the same when we go in and out of faith that is dualistic versus non-dualistic. So what do I mean by dualistic faith? I'm talking about Christianity and this idea that Jesus took on board, in the Christian story, Jesus took on board the sins of the world and died for our sin that we might have eternal life. Okay? Now, that is true. Some people think that, if you move into non-duality, you've stopped believing, you've gone away from the truth. No, it's just a different programming. It's just a different version of it. That is and when I say a story, I'm not saying a story as in it didn't happen and it's made up. I'm meaning it's a narrative and a story, just as I'm in a story and you're in a story, and it's about people and places and things and events and history. It really happened as an event in history. And because it really happened as an event in history, it helps people who need that. It's like when you learn to ride a bike and you still need your stabilizers. We need something to hook onto the message, the good news, the salvation story, the story of freedom. And that's what it gives us. As we move into non-duality, that doesn't stop being true. We just understand it in a different way. We understand that the Christ event was modelling, in the person of Jesus, was modelling this self-emptying, self-giving, even dying to the self in a very literal way, and taking 100% responsibility for all of the problems. So it was a very literal story that was playing out in history. We can take the truth of that and the essence of that and understand it mystically as a motif for all time. For all time. This is the Christ event that plays out in your life and in my life. So that's just what Jesus was saying when he said, if you want to follow me, you must lay down your life for your friend. Greater love have no man or woman than to lay down his life for a friend. Saying let go of the attachment to your life and understand that there's oneness. He tried to teach that all the time. Why he said when you help people, when you do this for the least of these, my brothers or sisters, you do it for me. Meaning when you help someone, when you show love and compassion and physical help, because really there are no separate people. Now, this was brought to my attention literally just yesterday. In fact, I've only just got a message. Janet, I know you'll be watching, and you sent me a message about this memorial service today of your niece. A real sad time, because quite suddenly you lost a member of your family who was diagnosed with cancer and got ill very, very quickly. And so this is a tragic event for your family, and you were wanting to find something that would bring some hope to people at her memorial. And you were led to John O'Donoghue. Now, I've spoken about him before, this Irish priest poet who wrote this beautiful poem, and I want to share it because as I read it, I thought this is so relevant to this theme today. And literally before I started filming just now, you sent me a message. But this poem, I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to just pick up a couple of lines from it. So this is about about the pain of loss and bereavement. Though your days here were brief, your spirit was alive, awake, complete. We look towards each other no longer from the old distance of our names. We look towards each other no longer from the old distance of our names. That's talking about duality. When, I was Jill and you were Julie or whoever, and we were just different. We had different names, and we thought that we were separate, and we had this relationship with one another because we were in a world of form. And when we move into spirit, we move into formless. And he goes on to say, though we cannot see you with outward eyes, we know our soul's gaze is upon your face, smiling back at us from within everything. smiling back at us from within everything. In other words, you're now everywhere. You're not limited and restricted to that bodily form, to that body, and also that form of who you were, that patterning. And now you're released and you're in everything. You're in the wind, you're in the trees, you're all around me. Does that mean I'll never see Susan again, let's say? This person, whoever it is that you're missing. And you think, well, yes, in one sense it's nice to know that we are spirit. I do know that we're spirit and that we're returning to source, but I long to see your face again. I long to hug you again. I long for your interaction, for that interaction with your personality. Is that just lost because you've sort of gone back to this pure essence and your spirit, and it's all amorphous and intangible now? If that thought leaves a sense of sorrow and emptiness, like something is missing, then the answer is no. May you continue to inspire us to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage, and to love until we see your beautiful face again. In that land where there is no more separation, where all tears will be wiped from our mind, and where we will never lose you again. So in other words, there has to be this reunion. We have to see your face again. Otherwise there would be a sense of loss still. And if it is to be a place where there is no sorrow and no tears, then nothing can be left out. Love cannot be incomplete. And this is what return to wholeness means. Wholeness, nothing is left out, nothing is incomplete. And this is why the altar that we visualize is a circle, because a circle is complete. And all the problems and all the sorrows of the world that we, in our visualizing, lay on the altar is so that it is transmuted by love. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And so it is, it's complete. It's returned to a place of perfection, and nothing is left out. And nothing is left unredeemed as well, I am hearing. Nothing is left unredeemed. Yeah. This is day 5, and in the journal, after we've read this, we've got awareness. You've got something to do in your journal. Let's see what it says. What's showing up for cleaning today? Remember, everything you see or hear about is in your life. Once you take 100% responsibility for it, you can change it. And then there are 4 sections. 4 sections. These are my post-it notes from last year. There's home, work, my nation, and the world. Oh, look at that. Look at that in the world. This is from last year. It says, end the war in Ukraine and Russia, between Ukraine and Russia. And I've put war, fairness and justice, and then I've written the word peace. Yeah. There can only be peace when there is fairness and justice. If there is not fairness and justice, it won't be a peace. All right, so you can't even call it peace. And there's a lot of, commercial warmongering happening that is masquerading as being peacemaking. It's not really peacemaking at all. What have I got at work? That's interesting. Yeah, that's just a bit personal. I've put some things in there, and it's interesting to look back and see how much has happened, how much has changed with that. So if you haven't got the journal, perhaps just do that with a piece of paper today. Work, home, homework, my nation, and internationally. What is showing up for cleaning? What do I want to clean on? So let's end with the prayer that we always use. Divine Creator, Father, Mother, God, Son in one. If I, my family, relatives, ancestors have offended you, your family, relatives, ancestors in thought, word, deed or action, we ask your forgiveness. Let this cleanse, purify, release, cut all the negative memories, blocks, energies and vibrations, and transmute all the unwanted energies into pure light. And it is done. Amen. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.